So we want to accept JSON requests, and we want to accept
Can
URL encoded
you
requests.
zoom in the web page?
Okay. Whoops. Okay. And now let's add a couple of so like add some basic routes. So we can have like an index route. What? Oh, so for this example, I'm not going to be using a router or anything. I mean, it works exactly the same way. So you could do the same thing with a router, but since I just want to do a simple thing with just one file, I'm not going to like make it too complicated. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. I think that's fine. Okay, so we see that we're on the main page, so that much worked. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is add a page where we can actually log in from. So, okay, so let's add like a login route. So don't actually like do this in your applications, but I'm just gonna like insert everything manually here.
Probably want single quotes.
What? Oh. This will all be on GitHub after class 2, so if you can't follow along, that's fine. Wait, I'll have to zoom in. Okay, so let's just add a label to those. Okay, so we made our username and password fields, and okay, so cool. So we made our basic login form, and we're not going to style it or anything because no one likes CSS. So besides Yolanda. So,
I love CSS, okay.
okay. Okay, so now we made our basic app with our routes. So let's try and figure out how we can use Passport. Okay, so if we go through the Passport docs, it says code does not need to be complicated. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is install Passport. So let's do that. Okay, so we've installed Passport. Okay, so if we scroll down a bit, they give like, they say like, oh, you can authenticate routes or whatever, but they say the first thing you need to do is configure strategies before using them in a route. So, so they have a section called configure, and okay, so we'll be going over two things today. We're going to be going over logging in with username and password, and logging in with Facebook. And these can be easily extended to whatever else you want to do. Like, it's very similar if you want to use Google, LinkedIn, etc. Okay, but first we'll be doing username and password. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is require Passport. Okay, so we've required Passport. So what we see here is we have the original var passport equals require passport, and this is like the main Passport package. But the way Passport works is that it has multiple different plugins that you can add, which are called strategies, and you can use any of these different strategies for your web application. So for example, Passport local means that you take the user's username and passwords themselves, whereas there also are things like Passport Facebook and stuff which you can use to authenticate through Facebook. But so first we'll be going over authenticating just with usernames and passwords. So to do that we'll need Passport local. And keeps happening.
It's because when you
Control Shift C.
yeah, you're Control Shift Cing and enabling inspection on your browser.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. Rip. Okay. So we've added this local strategy or whatever. So what do we have to do next? Okay, so here we have Passport gives you some like code here which you can this will probably work, but there's actually a way that there's like an additional package we can use to make this easier. And this is called Passport local mongoose. And basically what this does is that it provides nice integration with Mongoose. So you don't need to make all of those ugly like callbacks and things. So you definitely want to look into this if you're interested in doing usernames and passwords. Okay, so how do we use this? So it says to install, you just run that. Oh, and if anyone gets stuck anywhere throughout this, just raise your hand and someone from staff will come. Okay, so we've installed it. We also need Mongoose, so okay, so let's make a file for a schema. So let's call this just user.js. This seems pretty legit, so let's just copy it. Not like that. Okay, so we've copied this. So we have Mongoose here. We want to be able to actually connect our Mongoose to our database. So let's do that. If we just look up how to connect Mongoose to a database, we see this. This is just on the main page of Mongoose. Okay, so yeah, we want our database to be on our local host, and let's name it. Let's call it. Okay, so this seems pretty legit. Okay, so let's import that. Okay, great. So we now have done those initial steps that Passport Local Mongoose has told us to do here. Okay, so to actually configure it, they say they say, so we've already done this, and so now we're getting into actually using Passport. So let's go back to the Passport docs. Okay, so let's find passport.use. Okay, so yeah, so we were just here and we saw this giant thing. So we can actually cut out a lot of that because we have this nice package. So, okay. So when we're configuring, so we want to make a new local strategy, and here it says user.authenticate. So that'll just work magically for us. And if we go through the documentation more, somewhere here, Yeah. So, okay, so this is a portion where we actually tell our Express app to use Passport. And this is a part that if you try and like copy, it'll just kill your app. Because, I don't know, Passport just doesn't want to update the documentation. So we need to modify this to work for Express 4. And this isn't actually that bad. So we've already app.used our Express body parser. So, okay, I'll just explain really quick that the difference between one of the differences between Express 4 and Express 3 is that in Express 3 you can do like express.bodyParser, because body parser used to be included inside Express. Whereas now, if you look at what we've done, we have to explicitly require body parser and then use that ourselves. So there's a similar thing for the rest of these. So and also cookie parser, you no longer need it all anymore, so just ignore that. So we want to be able to use this Express session thing. And if you remember yesterday when I was talking about sessions, this is what actually handles your session tokens. So to do this, let's just find Express session. Okay. Alright. Okay, so now we have session. Okay, so Passport tells us that we want to app.use express.session. Okay, so let's do that. And here we need some sort of secret, as this tells us. So let's do that. Okay, so we've done that. And then it tells us to just use app.initialize, passport.initialize, and passport.session, so we can just copy those. And over here you see the app.router thing, and you probably have something similar in your Express apps. But since I'm not even using a router, I'm just doing it straight from app. I won't put that in. Okay. So what else do we need from Passport? So we've done this app.configure stuff. It also says that, okay, in a typical web application, the credentials used to authenticate a user will be transmitted to a login request. So they say, basically, if you read this, they say that you need to serialize and deserialize your user instances. Yeah, we could do this, but again, our handy library here, Passport Local Mongoose handles this for us. So we can just take those.
Also, import user above where you do your local strategy.
Oh yeah. Actually, I'll just put these. Okay. So. Okay, I don't know if that's all, but I just want to see if this runs. Okay, and okay, so we can actually fix this. This is because again the password documentation is old. So if we just so it says that we have an undefined resave option and an undefined save uninitialized option. So let's just fix that, I guess. Okay, so if we go back to our session documentation, if we just search for resave, they say resave forces us the session to be saved back. I'm not even going to read this. It just says typically you want false, so let's just do that. And the other one was, I don't remember. Save uninitialized. So okay, so and let's set that to
True has been deprecated.
true. Let's do it.
No, but that has been deprecated.
It says using the default has been deprecated.
Okay.
So the default is still true, so we can still use that. Hopefully. Okay, so
Don't worry, we'll have this all ready to express that. What? We'll just have to do all the logins with skeleton on the express app for you guys on GitHub. So if you guys want to start with skeleton, we'll have like
okay, it seems to run without complaining now.
options to
So
authentication.
okay, cool.
Else for you, what happens?
Our site still loads, which is good, because if you do this wrong, your site just will never load again. So, well, if you reverse all the password stuff, it'll work. The main key point I want to make over here is that when you go through this section of the password documentation, if you're doing this in the future, you want to ignore this line, because this line will like screw you over. So just like pretend this never existed. Okay. So our thing runs now. So let's try making an authenticated path. Because we've added passport and set it all up, but I mean we haven't actually done anything with it. So now we can go back to the top and see what passport can do for us. So okay. So we can copy this. Okay, so this is probably pretty self-explanatory. Basically, we're just making a route so that if we post to /login, Passport will attempt to authenticate us, and if it's successful, it'll redirect us to the index. If it fails, it'll redirect us back to login. Okay, cool. And just so we can test this out, let's make it so that our index page is protected. So we don't want any user that's not logged in to be able to connect to our index. So how can we do this? Okay, so it looks like we can just use this.
Can you make it larger?
Passport will just include it inside of the request. So we can just do request.user.authenticated. So let's try that. Okay. So. Okay, so clearly we have a problem.
Authenticated is undefined.
So it says user isn't authenticated. So I'm gonna check my cheat sheet for this because honestly I have no idea. Oh, I think this is a change. Maybe the site I looked at was old, but I think it just is authenticated. So, okay, cool. So now if we try to go to our main page, we see that it'll redirect us to login because we're not logged in. Okay, but now the problem is how do we log in if like we don't have a username or anything? So, okay, we can fix this. Okay, so let's add a sign up path. Okay, so username, password, and let's name this one sign up. Okay, so we made her that route. We can just test that real quick.
Can you zoom in that page as well?
Okay. So we made that. So now what do we do to actually get people to sign up? So if we go back to our passport local mongoose library, I don't remember the right field. Let me just. Okay, so it looks like we can just use user.register. I don't know where I found this. I found this somewhere online through Google, but okay. so I think let's just do this here. Okay, so for our username, we get the username that they submitted here. So rect.body.username, and after that we pass. I think that's right. Yeah, and then we have an optional callback at the end that we can use or not use. Oh, and you'd probably want to make the password hidden, but like you can make it so when you type in your password, it hides it. Okay, so it seems like it did something. So let's actually make sure it did something. Okay.
Can you zoom in? Okay.
So. So we see a users collection. Okay, so see here we have like our user has been created. And you see here we have our username here. We have our salt here for this user, and we have the hash of their password with the salt. So it seems like this worked. So let's see if we can actually log in like this. Nope. Let's see. Okay, so it looks like that route is broken. So let's see what's wrong with that. Okay, I'm just going to check my cheat sheet.